Eddie fucking Munster. I don't know if you guys are still betting political props, but this is one I took a look at, and I can't believe it that I lost this bet. That I had money, and welcome to the show. Welcome to License to Steal. I know the politics thing is probably taboo at this point, and we're all just looking on and waiting to see when the earth is actually going to come to an end with this Trump election. But even if you were a Trumpster, you had to be somewhat aghast at this one. I literally thought, and welcome to the show. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's my man Toby. He's producing, does a fine job, and of course you can catch him on his Bleacher Brother performances. Does a great job analyzing baseball. Really, I mean, you get deeply into it, Toby. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. How are you doing? I get into it as I can. I mean, it's definitely my favorite sport. I love talking about it, and sometimes I might get a little too deep into it, but I appreciate the kind words about that.
It's heartening to see. It's heartening to see young guys that are into baseball because during my youth, of course, it was America's pastime. In fact, football was just a diversion between the time the World Series ended and pitchers and catchers reported. That's all changed. That whole landscape has changed. And there was some concern, like there is with the sport of boxing, that the thing was going to become extinct because young people were not gravitating towards it, not immersing themselves in it. So very heartening to see guys like you totally absorbed in the game of baseball. I think that bodes well for the future of the sport. But I had money. I actually had a bet. I went online. I had to research this. Some obscure book somewhere in Guam was taking action on whether or not Matt Gaetz would be more likely to become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys than the Attorney General of the United States. So I took that at like 1,001. I figured he had a better chance of coaching the Cowboys than he did of becoming the head of the Justice Department. You have to be kidding me. But that was a political prop that I lost. And it's interesting, too, because it's almost as wild as betting the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. Now, I know you said, Toby, that you're not a big boxing bettor. I've had great success over the years, at least a modest amount of success betting boxing because you can usually sniff out the upset. It's not going to happen frequently. The majority of time, you have overwhelming favorites. You have to bet 10,000 to win 100 on Canelo or whatever. You're probably not going to find upsets in those categories very often. But every now and then, if you follow the sport, you're going to catch something like we did when we had Frankie Randall, who was knocking out guys. We were watching this guy's ice people in the gym out in Las Vegas. And then we'd go see the workouts of Julio Cesar Chavez, who was his opponent, and of course, heavily favored in the fight. And it looked like he was training on mescaline. I don't know what the hell he was using, but he was not sharp at all. He was very lethargic and lackadaisical. So we're getting like 7-1 on Frankie Randall in the first fight that they had together and cashed a big ticket. You could see when Anthony Joshua fought this little short, fat Mexican guy, Andy Ruiz, that even though the odds were extremely prohibitive, at I think it was 25-1, and there appeared to be no shot. If you looked at the two guys when they had to stare down after the weigh-in, you were asking yourself, are they going to have enough medical staff on hand to take care of Ruiz somewhere in the middle of the first round? And he's getting knocked around like a bowling pin on the deck. And all of a sudden, he comes back and knocks out Anthony Joshua, cash a big ticket. But if you had seen this guy before, you thought, well, you know what? For a short, fat Mexican guy, this guy, I don't mean to, get this into any kind of a racist or ethnic thing, but he had some fast hands. He had a little bit of boxing ability. And you had to hope that he could take a punch well enough to survive the early rounds to actually get a shot at coming back on Joshua. He wins that fight. Point being, you can usually see some kind of a pattern when you're predicting the upset. But everybody, now what would you say, Toby, if this was a thing that was going around forever when Tyson was in his prime? Like, well, would you take $1,000,000 to stand in there and take one punch from Mike Tyson? If you were offered $1,000,000.
I've heard that before. 100%. 100%.
You would do it. You
Yeah,
would get in there and take one shot from Tyson, realizing that the consequences could be far more severe than just feeling a little bit of pain, that it might be the absolute end of your existence.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a tough one because that punch could, I'm 140 pounds. That punch might have a good shot at killing me. So I'm gonna take the chance. $1,000,000, $1,000,000. I mean, it might be a little less just going to the hospital, but I would take the chance that a Mike Tyson punch won't kill me for good.
I'm going Mitch Blood Green on that. I'm just staying out of the way of Mike Tyson altogether. Now, a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, I wouldn't want to tangle with him at 73. I don't know about you, Not sure what kind of facsimile he'll be of his old self. But right now, they're sending it in on Mike Tyson in this fight against Jake Paul. It's coming up tomorrow night. People are calling me and asking me if I have Netflix, and I say yes. And they go, "Well, can you send me the subscription so I can watch it?" I'm like, "What the fuck? I haven't talked to you in 20 years. And by the way, where's the 200 you borrowed off me the last time I saw you at the track?" These guys are coming out of the woodwork. All of a sudden, they're your best friends. But 76% of the tickets are being bet on Mike Tyson in this fight, and 59% of the money. And you're getting plus 175 on Mike Tyson against Jake Paul, who's minus 215 as the favorite. This is going to be, this amazed me. I've been to a lot of great fights, including we just celebrated the 42-year anniversary a couple of days ago of Arguello Pryor at the Orange Bowl. It was one of the first big sporting events I attended here after I moved to Miami. Tremendous fight. I knew Alexis a little bit from before the fight. I got to know him much better afterwards. Of course, a lot of controversy in there with Panama Lewis and the bottle I mixed, supposedly peppermint schnapps. I think it was methamphetamine he had in the bottle that he mixed with water. But, I mean, eclipsing all of these, all of the Mayweather fights, anything that Hagler Hearns didn't draw this kind of attention, none of the Oscar De La Hoya fights. This is going to be the biggest, most wagered on fight in the history of boxing, according to BetMGM. Just astounding. Now, I don't know if this man shares an opinion on the fight. I don't know if he's going to dabble in it. Let's bring on the professor here, and we'll try and dive into an attempt here to make some money on this week's version and episode of License to Steal. Professor, how are you, my friend?
I've had better years.
The college football has been rough, surprisingly. I was telling Toby before the show, I said, I don't know anybody that's better at this than the professor. And yet he's having one of those seasons where, and I don't know if this... Yeah, go ahead.
The only solace I can take is I researched a lot of it on the internet to see how other people are doing, what trends are going. Every one of the worst donkeys in the industry I can name are all red hot right now, like blazing. Look, I don't mind calling a guy out because I'm not really doing it, but it's like his reputation. Like bet it with Trent Alia, who is known as the worst opinion in the business. Cannot lose a game right now. So it tells me, you're still on the right side of things. You're just having this really bizarre season. It seems to be going on, not only for me, but for the books in the NFL. I just read an article today. Both DraftKings and FanDuel have advised down on their investors because they're just getting slaughtered in the NFL so far this season. So, I guess we're finally seeing the year where the squares are having their revenge. I remember we had it in the NFL, 10 or 15 years ago. There was like 4 teams that went something like, I don't know, 33-2 to close the season. And the public had a huge year. I guess maybe that's the explanation. Is this is just the oddball year where things have gone totally sideways. Good news is we are off to college basketball as well, where we're actually doing notably better. Right? Luckily, Tuesday night cashed what has become like a Pro Bowl-esque annuity, betting against Duke in the first ranked matchup of the year, which they lost straight up. And, it's something I enjoy doing anyway. So
you're still stepping on the grave of Coach K, even though he's not coaching the team anymore. And of course,
what's changed? They're still the same team. That kid Khan, whatever, the most frat boy, white boy name of 2024. I don't know if he's going to be at Duke long enough to really make that we despise this guy list, but he's got, J.J. Redick, Jay Billis-like potential to be one of the more hated Duke players of all time.
Grayson Allen gets a prize for me. There was nobody quite as despicable, even with Leitner, as you mentioned, Redick, Grayson Allen still.
I don't think Leitner's
to the game of basketball.
I don't think Leitner's touchable. He's so far and away the number one that no one can possibly get to that level. And, all 4 years, which doesn't happen anymore. But I 2 is still attainable.
All right. So, and we were just speaking, Toby and I, before the show, we got started because we were talking about who's coming on, and it's the same band of people. But and I was saying that even though you're getting roughed up a little bit on your public picks on college football, I would think you would have a substantial edge. Anybody would that really studied this stuff, especially now with the transfer portal and all the different changes that take place that aren't necessarily readily apparent when you're looking at a roster. early on, I mean, finding teams that are in there with a shot against powerhouses, getting a bushel full of points would seem to be something that somebody like yourself that studies this and really gets into all kinds of minute detail on it would give you a substantial edge. I mean, do you feel that way that early in the season
I
is
felt that
really the
way.
time to
I
score?
felt that way through last season. I will tell you, I think this is one of the years where we are seeing uh, just how unpredictable NIL and the transfer portal absolutely can be. Indiana's a great example of it. I think anybody who saw Curtis Rourke in the MAC thought he was a nice player, but certainly not a guy who would, walk in and be one of the better offensive players in the Big Ten on day one. Honestly, I think you're seeing the perfect example of that in the state of Florida, which is Florida State, who brought in a ton of transport talent. I mean, look, you may not have been, not everybody was the biggest DJU fan in the world. I was not the biggest DJU fan in the world. But if you were going to tell me that Florida State was likely going to wind up 2-10 with all the transfer talent they brought in, I would have told you, I would have bet my house if you would give me an over under of 2.5 wins on Florida State. So I think this is a year where we're seeing just how unpredictable that can be, whether that's a matter of just evaluating guys differently in different situations, whether it's a matter of how they blend together, chemistry issues. Hard to say. But like I said, I think you are seeing the really two perfectly in play example. Indiana, a largely rebuilt roster with a first year coach who wasn't like a big name hire. I mean, yes, he did a hell of a job at James Madison, but it was James freaking Madison. Um, and they are, we may see Indiana in the Big Ten title game. And on the other polar opposite end, Florida State, I believe preseason ranked number 9, literally having the worst season maybe in their football history. I mean, it's a pretty amazing season.
Mickey Andrews is rolling over in his grave watching these developments. And Mickey Andrews always gave me a little bit of lean to believe that some of the coaching staff was comprised of people that had been involved in some kind of inbreeding, family-wise. But that was the heyday. This has been a bizarre year. I don't know that anybody could have anticipated this. I actually thought the ukulele kid, based on what he did at Oregon State, what was going to be a pretty good
For that,
pretty good replacement there for Travis,
did
Jordan
not
Travis.
necessarily think he was the world's greatest quarterback coming. Well,
Yeah.
look, when he signed with Florida State, Miami signed Cam Ward. I thought clearly Miami got the better deal. I thought Miami got the better player. But if you were going to tell me he was going to be, one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of Florida State, I'd have said no. He's not anywhere near like that. It's a bizarre year.
No doubt about it. All right, we're going to try and make amends here. There's still a lot of season left, and we have the playoffs coming up, and bowls, and all kinds of different stuff, and a couple of games left in the regular season college football. So, and if you want to dive into some college hoops, that'd be great as well. So, where do you want to start this week,
I will
Professor?
just one mention in college basketball, which is tomorrow night. I do not have an early line. Early lines are tough to come from in college basketball. Alabama going to Purdue. I don't know what I would imagine line's going to be Alabama by very little. I would pick like 2.5 or 3 points. If you can get it beneath, I don't know, 4 or 5, I think Alabama will be good value there. I'm not really particularly impressed with what Purdue brought back after the loss of Zach Edey. Alabama, on the other hand, did bring back a good bit of their roster. Don't focus on that season-ending loss to UConn where they got routed a little bit. They bring back a really good and deep basketball team. And I think they will wear Purdue out in that game. Even though it is a road game, I like Alabama in that spot.
All right, let's get to it. We want to print out a license to steal here. That's what we're all about, like the DMV. Just going to give you a license to go out there and make some money. Here's the professor, and I'll let you roll with your picks for this week.
We're going to start Friday night, even though we kind of got burned with a Cal touchdown to beat us finally on a Friday night. We are coming back.
That was a sick beat, by the way.
Yes, it was not a pleasant
By all
game.
accounts, yeah.
It set the tone. We're going with Washington. I'm showing currently laying 4 to UCLA. Haven't been impressed with UCLA, even in this season turnaround they've had the last few weeks with 3 straight wins. Not particularly buying what the Bruins are doing because it's been kind of all over the place. They won a shootout with Rutgers, kind of a turnover game with Nebraska, and they won a defensive game with Iowa. Was that either one of two things? Either UCLA has reversed every facet of their team over the last 3 weeks, or they've been a little bit fortunate in the schedule timing. I don't think they will be at Washington here, like the Huskies in this spot. Minus the 4. It's a game really to me. It comes about defense, even with their improvements the last few weeks. UCLA 115th in the country in total defense. Washington 49th. 49th is not a great number, but it's a hell of a lot better than 115th. With two teams that struggle at times to produce offense, I favor Washington as the better defense and more likely to get on track against a bad UCLA defense. So give me the Huskies to start the weekend on Friday night, laying 4.
All right, getting off to a start on Friday night, a little shot of adrenaline there. We get the Huskies laying 4 against what has really been a subpar and disappointing UCLA team so far this year. What else you have for us, Professor?
The feature game of the week. We usually don't dabble in these, but Tennessee going to Georgia, laying 10 points. Georgia laying 10 points. After last week and after really the offensive struggles all year long, which I thought they would overcome, frankly, against an Ole Miss defense that at times has not looked great during the season. I see no reason for Georgia to be laying double digits against another ranked team here. And it's one of those matchups, everything one team's good at, the other team's good at. Georgia does not run the ball well. Well, Tennessee is great against the pass, 37th in the country against the pass. Tennessee does rush the ball well. That's something Georgia's good at, but Tennessee's a little bit more versatile on both sides of the ball. And Georgia's passing defense is a little bit down this year by their standards, 84th in the country against the pass. You look at these two defenses overall, Tennessee 17th in the country and has shown at times a dominant defensive line. Georgia 56th in the country, a very un-Kirby Smart-like number in total defense there. Again, don't see any reason why Georgia should be laying 10 here. Like Tennessee in the points. And if you want to play with this money line a little bit at plus 300, I think Tennessee will be in the game in the fourth quarter. I would personally take the points, but if you are a money line player, I think they have an excellent shot to be in that game in the fourth quarter.
A little bounce, too, emotionally for Georgia. They were in the mix, get blown out by Ole Miss. All of a sudden, their chances are prohibitive about making the postseason. So you're looking at Tennessee to prevail in a spot, possibly on the money line, but certainly getting double-digit points, getting 10 points from Georgia. 2 picks in from the professor on License to Steal. What else do you have for us?
Last one for this week in football, and we're staying in the SEC because why not just lean into the chaos that league has been all year long, and that is LSU laying 4 at Florida. People a little bit turned around, I guess, on the Florida Gators from some of the numbers we saw in the early season. LSU still not out of the mix, by the way, for the SEC title game, just because that league has gotten so wacky. Don't really see any reason why anybody would be backing the Florida Gators in this spot with this thin a line. Yes, I know they're at home, and I know historically home field advantage has been a big deal in the Swamp, but I would argue this year ain't your usual Gator team, so the home field not nearly as strong. 2 easy stats right here. If you've seen LSU play, they are a passing team behind Garrett Nussmeier. Florida, 189th in the country against the pass, and 199th defensively overall.
Wow.
Like the LSU Bengal Tigers here, laying 4. Looks like a pretty easy spot to me. Don't really understand is Florida a little bit better than we thought they were? Yes, they are. But you look at some of the quality teams they played. Lost to Texas by 32. Lost to Georgia in a game where Georgia struggled by 15. The one where I thought they played over their head, Tennessee, they still lost by 6 in a game where Tennessee offensively did just about everything wrong they could do in that spot. So, like in LSU, minus 4, at 3:30 game on Saturday.
All right, License to Steal features of the professor here. Going ahead and taking Tennessee and LSU, Washington over UCLA. Now, we've had some success betting boxing over the years. Are you involved at all? Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. Would you be inclined?
I don't know what the odds are, to be honest.
Paul is a minus 215 favorite. Tyson, you're getting plus 174. This will be the biggest wagering event in the history of the sweet science.
You're telling me Mike Tyson is an underdog to Jake Paul? Is this
Mike Tyson at 58 years old, an underdog to Jake Paul? They're expecting, and the fans are all on Tyson because of a lot of reasons. The Mayweather factor, number one. Most people are buying the fight or to just see this guy get his face kicked in.
That would be my question. Is it going to be the same sort of screwy rules that the other Paul brother fought Mayweather under?
They're going 2-minute rounds, I believe, and 14-ounce gloves. The gloves are going to be the size of. I think the My Pillow guy is going to be the referee in this fight, but
Okay.
we'll see if that's
I don't
enough to
really,
save
I
Jake
don't have
Paul.
a real opinion like everybody else. If you're going to give me like a free play on it, I'd take Tyson.
You'd have to take a shot with Tyson, right? Because we're hoping that the past, that father time is not a factor in this one. So we'll see. All right, Professor, always great. We're looking for a big weekend here. The Professor, Washington laying 4 against UCLA at home. You have Tennessee getting 10 from Georgia. LSU laying 4 on the road at the Swamp
Tomorrow
against the
night,
Florida Gators.
we don't know the number, but if we do get Alabama at a thin number, watch Alabama at Purdue in basketball tomorrow night.
And the round ball, Alabama at Purdue. Professor, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk again tomorrow. Thanks so much for
Have
being
a
with
great
us.
one, Steve.
All right, that was the Professor, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to bring on, looks like we have Mike here, but we actually had Scotty scheduled to go. Is that okay, Mike? Can we
That's fine.
go ahead?
Yep.
Okay, let's pop Scotty M in here if we can. We got Toby. There he is. Okay, beautiful. All right. Are the boys all in on this Netflix thing? We were talking about it. I mean, the only factor that needs to be considered here is how much impact would Father Time have? I would think this, and you're wondering if Tyson wins, does he continue to box? And I am speculating, and I may make a wager on this, that if he beats Jake Paul and looks good in the process, that his next fight will be against the tag team of Robin Givens and Ruth Roper. And Roper will be allowed to bring her purse with all of the money that they sucked out of Tyson's bank accounts. And if she hits him with that, I don't know that Tyson is going to be able to take it. He may have a good chin, but I don't think it's solid enough to withstand that. How are you, Scotty M? How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing great, Defo. I can't complain. Everything's going really well right now on all cylinders in the sports world. College basketball, hot. NBA, been doing great. Had a great week on the show last week. I think we went 4-1.
Yes.
Opinion play in our 4 other games, hit 4 out of 5. This week already off to a great start. Had Hofstra last night in college basketball. I had Kentucky the night before in college basketball. Yeah, I mean, things are good, man. I can't complain. Oh, by the way, I ran into a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Dave Wolfman. He told me to tell you.
Oh, yeah, very nice.
Best regards to you, and anything he could do for you, he said, to make sure you know that. So I told him I was going to pass it on.
Does he have any money? Maybe I'll give him a call.
I don't know, man.
He's always doing well for himself. He
Yeah,
was like a head of sales at a couple of radio stations I worked at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's doing good. I'm feeling jacked up. I got a lot of stuff going on right now. Sports world's happening. I mean, look at it. I mean, this is the time of year. Think about it. Everything is going on under the sun other than baseball. College basketball heating up, NBA, hockey, NFL, college football down to the last couple of weeks of the season. I mean, this is this is what we look forward to. I'm sure all the guys on the show with you know that this time of the year, coming into the holidays and all the stuff that's going on, very crucial time of the year to definitely try to help your clients around the holidays and build a bank.
Nothing like making a score right before the holidays or even on the eve of the holiday itself. I remember cashing a tri-super at Dania Highlight on Christmas Eve one year, and it made my year. That's for sure. Had to sweat out a couple of playoff points and a few bogus tries by Joey Kornblit, but other than that, it turned out great. All right, we want to get to some action here and help out all of the people that are viewers of License to Steal. Scotty M, been on a roll, as you stated. You this week are looking at a bunch of things, but mostly on the football side. First game up, you're looking at Tulane and Navy.
Yeah, I'm going with this week. I didn't see the board so exciting to me. I mean, a lot of the other guys might think differently. I didn't see so much excitement, but I did see a couple of plays that really stood out to me early in the week. And I just kind of zoned in on them. But I love Tulane against Navy this week. I think that line is right. I think Tulane absolutely. They won 7 in a row. And in that 7-game winning streak, no one's come within 8 points or fewer within that, their run right now. So they've been dominating on this run. The thing I like about them is they can put points up. They average like 41 points a game, but they're tremendous. They're like in the top 6 or 7 in the nation on third down conversions. What that means is they don't give the ball away so easily. They keep the drives alive and they keep the ball in their possession. When you have that against a team like Navy that depends on having a lot of opportunities, you don't get those opportunities. And I just think the way Tulane's playing right now, And the way that number on that game, I thought that number on the game, to be honest, would be about 3.5 to 4.5 at most. They made this a solid number. They brought it out at 6.5. I'm seeing it even at 7. I love Tulane in this game. I bring it down to -6. Keep it under 7. Definitely keep it under 7. I would make it 6. I think Tulane controls this game. They win their 8th in a row. And Navy right now started, house of fire, 6 in a row. Got their ass kicked by Notre Dame. Seemed like it took a lot of starch out of them. 1-2 in their last 3 games overall. I like Tulane in this game big time. They'll win by double digits.
The thing that always amazes me about Army and Navy is how could you have like 3,000-4,000 people attending the university there and going to school, and not one of them can throw the fucking football. They can't ever find a guy who can throw the ball.
That's what makes it exciting for me, because on the other side of the ball, they got a team that's got the best, one of the top third down conversion ratios in the nation. So they're not giving the ball back to Navy so quickly, and they're averaging 41 points a game. And if they could control the game like that and not give the ball so many times to the possessions to Navy, they could win this game pretty damn handily. And I think that's why that line is a strong number at 6.5, 7. So yeah. I see that. I see exactly the kind of game this could be.
Kind of drifted up to 7, I guess, as of yesterday, and maybe at that point again today. But you're saying, and we talked earlier in the week, it was 6 and a hook. You're saying buy it down to 6, maybe pay a little bit of a premium for that. But Tulane laying 6 over Navy, Scotty M's first roll. Now you're going with a total here in the Coastal Carolina Marshall game. You managed to dodge the marquee game of the day, which is Tennessee, Georgia, and go right to Coastal Carolina Marshall, because you think this is going to be a shootout.
I really do. I think that both these teams are going to come to play in this game, and they both have potential to score 30 or more. When I looked at this game, to be honest with you, Defo, I have a number in my head on everything I'm looking at. I'm not looking at every game out there, all 70 or 80 games. But I look at a certain handful of games, and I come up with a number. If I think that number makes sense for me and I have a distinct advantage, I grab onto it, and I just gravitate towards that type of game. I thought this game should have been 61. The game was actually 53. It's moved up to 56. It's gone up 3 points. So obviously somebody's catching up to that number that's not right. And I just think that this game's going to be a shootout. I mean, Marshall, obviously, they're playing great. They're 5-0 at home. Coastal Carolina's 2-2 on the road. But when these teams match together, these kind of conference teams, they seem to try to want to impress each other. And when they try to want to impress each other, they try to score a lot of points on one another. I just think that this game has potential to be about a 61 to 67 point game. So I'm going to take the 56. And even if you want to leave, I'd leave it at 56. If it goes a little higher than that, bring it to 56. Lock in at 56 and go over that number, because I could see both these teams putting points on each other and making a statement one way or another. So I got both teams playing for me, which is good for me, and I'm looking for a lot of points in this one.
I was rolling by your office the other day, and a very posh place, by the way, where all of your guys are working hard all the time trying to come up with the winning formulas. And I couldn't help it. I thought I heard coming out of the office, Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from 20 to 20 like no one's ever seen. Are they going to take it into the end zone? You're thinking that this is a soft spot for the Dolphins, showing signs of life against the Buffalo Bills, beaten by a 61-yard improbable field goal. That came from a kicker that they were trying to get rid of right before the game. They were trying out virtually anybody that they could that could kick a football. And next thing you know, the Dolphins come back, and then on the road, they managed to beat the Los Angeles Rams. So while not overwhelmingly impressive offensively, it doesn't seem like they have that same spark that they did early, maybe through the first 10-plus games last year. They are getting it done and a little bit more efficient. Defense was pretty good in that game. You're thinking the Raiders are going to be easy fodder for the Miami Dolphins this week.
I think this is Christmas in November for the Dolphins. I really do. I think this is a gift from the skies above, that they're coming into play right now, where I could see that little peak, the confidence, the defense getting jacked up for the offense, and I could just see that little. I'm not saying they're going to go on a big tear and win all these games, but I could see them going on a 3-4 game run right now. The confidence is building. Tua's had a couple of great games back-to-back. The defense is showing up when necessary. They're playing a total shit team. I mean, the Raiders are nothing. They're not playing for anything. They're coming all the way across the country, same with the Dolphins. So there's no distinct advantage They're saying, well, this one's going across the country and the other one's at home. Dolphins came back. They're home now. The other team's coming from the west to the east. I just don't even see it. Gardner Minshew. I mean, this Dolphins defense could be like right now going like this, licking their chops, waiting for this one. I think they blow them out. I don't see this game even being close. I might be 100% wrong, but I think I'm not. I think that the Dolphins are going to have a showcase kind of game. They got to have a big performance at home for their base already. They haven't been doing well at home. This is the perfect situation for them to walk into, starting to peak a little bit, starting to play better on both sides of the ball. You got a weak opponent, that's probably not really gives a shit one way or another at this point in the season. They're probably just going through the steps of going through the steps. I think the Dolphins think that they, in the back of their minds, that they still have a chance if they could keep running games. And that's good because that means they have a lot of confidence that they think they can go on a little run. Line is up, dropped a little bit. I'm surprised. It was 7.5, it's down to 7. This game I'd bring down to 6. I would buy a full point. I think the Dolphins blow them out, but you know what? Just to be safe, keep it under a touchdown, especially in the NFL. There's no gifts in the NFL with numbers anyways, but I like the Dolphins to blow this team out by double digits. I don't even see this game being a close game. If the Dolphins show up the way I think, they blow this team out of the stadium.
Over-under total surprisingly low, considering you would think that the Dolphins are starting to feel it a little bit and get in sync offensively.
Could be one of those like 28 to 10 games or whatever the case may.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Raiders even really putting up a lot of points against them. Hey, listen, the Dolphins are showing life. I mean, I'm not saying their record doesn't show life. Their record's terrible, 3-6, but they're starting to show a little life. They played a great game against Buffalo. They played a tremendous game on Monday night. They really controlled that game from start to finish. And I think the carryover.
Kind of lost Scotty M there for a second. He's probably fielding calls from his clients as we speak as he goes to black. There you go.
Yeah, the carryover momentum I just feel favors them big time in this game. And I got one more game in the NFL that I feel really good about as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Buffalo, I think that's one of your plays.
I actually don't see how Buffalo beats Kansas City. I know everybody in the world is thinking, well, Buffalo's going to get them. They're going to get them. I've heard that shit for the last 3 years already with Buffalo going to get Kansas City. And you know what happens? Doesn't happen. That's the bottom line. And I'll tell you, anytime you give this Patrick Mahomes points, I mean, this guy just finds ways to win. Even last week, 4 guys busting through the line to block a field goal. Not 1, not 2, 3. They found 4 guys to get through. They just find ways to win. I love that about any team in sports. A great team always finds ways to get the job done. I think that the defense of Kansas City's is going to cause Josh Allen to do what Josh Allen likes to do. He's going to make a mistake. It's going to be crucial in the game. And I think Kansas City's going to take advantage of it. And again, his number 1 team in the NFL, Defo, on the third down conversions. As crazy as the season's been for Kansas City, yeah, they're 9-0, but they've been in every game has been competitive, basically. They haven't blown anybody out. But what do? They keep the ball moving. They're number 1 in the league in third down conversions. That keeps the ball away from guess who? Mr. Josh Allen and his offense. So if they could continue that kind of strategy and grind it out between their play action and their running game, I think Kansas City goes in there and gets the job done. The line's down to 2. I'm buying it to 3. It was 2.5 earlier in the week. I think they got the wrong team favorite. I know you're going to make Buffalo a slight favorite at home. They won 5 straight games in a row. I think that Kansas City has their number. I think they cause fits. I think Josh Allen's going to have a problem with them somehow, some way. And Mahomes, he doesn't seem to have problems with anyone. He just seems to keep doing what he does best, winning ball games.
Yeah, tempting to take the points, of course, with Patrick Mahomes because it's so rarely available to you to get that kind of situation. So you're going with Kansas City and now getting 2 points from the Buffalo Bills to go ahead and get the victory on the road or at least cover the point spread, be in that ballgame. All right, Scotty, people need to grind out some serious cash now with inflation and everything to buy gifts for the holidays. Good way to do it might be to follow your selections. How can people get on board with that?
Well, I'll tell you, man, we have been on, as they say, I'm knocking on the wood a little bit. We've been on a beautiful run right now, and I'm just hoping to keep it rolling in the right direction with everything that we've been doing has been spot on. So if you guys want to check out what we do, even check out our free plays. We're on a heater right now. We won 5 straight in a row. on the free plays, and I've hit over 61%. 61. You go back, count about 10,000 videos I've done on social media, on TikTok or Instagram. I've hit over 61% on my free stuff over the last 6+ years. My private games have been on fire, but if you want to check it all out, go check it out on my TikTok. Actually, on Instagram be the best way. My Instagram channel, guys, it's SM Sports Picks, Picks. We put out free stuff all the time. If you're interested in other things I do, send me a DM. I'll personally get back to you. I'm just looking to give guys the best winning edge. Listen, I'm doing this 37 years. It'll be next year that I've been doing this once 2025 comes. 1988, I got into this business. Love what I do. And if I can give guys the winning edge, I'm all for it.
Which one of us, because I'm on board with you on that Dolphins pick, I see this as at least a 10-point win. Which one of us shows up next week with a Mark Davis haircut if we lose?
I think you and I are going to be safe. When you say lose, I mean, we talking outright lose, or are we talking?
Let's make it a little bit more challenging. Outright lose, because I don't feel like getting the Mark Davis cut. My wife just threw out the salad bowl I was using, so I don't know if I'll be able to get somebody with a pair of scissors.
I don't know if I could go that. I don't know if I could take that pressure, Defo.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. Definitely not. You still have the good looks going. All right, Scotty, always a pleasure, my friend. Good luck with your plays. Scotty M. Going with Tulane, going with the over, Coastal Carolina Marshall, Miami Dolphins to crush the Raiders. We don't want to look like Mark Davis. We wouldn't mind having his money. And the Kansas City Chiefs getting points against the Buffalo Bills. Scotty, always a pleasure, my friend.
Defo, you're the best. Have a great day. Good luck with the games, guys.
Will do. All right. We continue moving here on License to Steal. We bring in, you talk about being prompt. This guy was like 20 minutes early for his appointment here on the show. We love that about Mike Jones because he's chomping at the bit to help us make some money on License to Steal. But I do have to ask you this. We had a discussion earlier this morning on another show, Mike, about this fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. And, did this happen to you when you're perceived to be a man of means? You're working in the NFL. You've got everything going. You got this fabulous app that you're working on, and there'll be news about that coming out in the near future. No doubt it's going to be a big winner for you. But were you the guy that everybody, when Mayweather was having those dreadful fights against Juan Manuel Marquez, and then turned out to be a brick of a fight because Manny Pacquiao wasn't 100% when he fought Mayweather, and Floyd just did what he had to do. I know you're a big Floyd Mayweather fan. Just did what he had to do to win. He did the shoulder roll. He threw a couple of counter punches. He landed more efficiently. He's a very accurate puncher, which is often overlooked as a boxing characteristic that leads to winning. Very accurate puncher. So even though it was marginal what he was doing in terms of exertion, he was landing effectively. He was winning these fights. But were you the guy that everybody called and said, "Hey, Mike, you buying the fight?" Yeah, and then they came over, and then you're in the awkward social situation that thing's going to cost you $1.20. You're going to have to go for like 6 pizzas, a bunch of booze, and you're not sure what everybody drinks, so you have to buy a wide variety of stuff. You're getting some vodka, some gin, some bourbon, some whiskey, some beers, some wine. I don't know, do they drink white or red? And all of a sudden, you're out like a dime putting this fight party together. Do the people ever chip in? They always say, yeah, well when do you get the cash? When they're leaving, is it okay at the door to go, hey, listen, Charlie, man, it's like $50 a man. You got it? Yeah, I'll get you next time. I always got stuck on those deals. Maybe that's why I sound a little bitter about that situation.
It's like the Halloween candy bucket. It always ends up empty. It's just, you just never got any help when it came to that. But yeah, as a fight fan being out there and getting to meet Floyd numerous times and watching him train, actually, I used to say everybody loves a knockout, but I kind of like the guy who doesn't get hit because just watching his athleticism in the ring made him as great as he was. Maybe he wanted to get to that 50-0 and maybe fought a couple of ducks toward the end. But man, when he was going, he was tough. And just watching him was just watching his skills and getting that close to watching him training. And when he wanted to hit you, he would hit you. It just he never put himself wanted to be vulnerable. He wanted to have his faculties. He saw the Alis, the Joe Frazier's, the guys who got pounded over the course of time, and he said, "Not me." And so I think people ought to take a little carbon copy of what he's done with his career to watch how he's going to have a nice little future with his brain intact.
Well, and early in his career, he was showing all kinds of spectacular skills and exhibited in these lower weights punching power and The combination punching was spectacular. The counter punching was great. Defensive skills were absolutely among the best that you could see. I mean, I always thought Roberto Duran might have been one of the most underrated defensive fighters because he didn't get hit solidly a lot. But I did call a fight down here. It took place in South Miami at a local Native American casino. And I was calling a fight for some outfit. I think it was HBO International. He fought Angel Manfredi, who was a darling of the ESPN boxing shows, and he had really built up a big name. Was actually favored over a young Floyd Mayweather in that fight. And I remember I was doing a commentary with a friend of mine, Eddie Kaplan, and we both, after the fight, said, that is the best fucking guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
We were both deeply involved in boxing and studied its history. And if you watch it, I think it only went like 2 rounds, but you watch Mayweather then, he was a completely different animal and had a different approach than he did later on when he kind of preserved himself.
Yeah.
All right, we have to get into making some money here.
Sure.
And so will you be watching this thing? You were inclined, I think, to take a little shot with Tyson.
I'll probably have to do a little bit more analyzing, handicapping, see if there's a little fix in because they might want to have more Paul fights to create revenue. So you never know. I think that has something to do with the inflated line. Hard to go against a world champion for years, but 58 years old, you don't know. Maybe that's why he's the dog. So.
All right, let's. And you're going straight to the National Football League.
I am. I'm going.
You're spilling right over. It's been a very rough season. We've seen that. The professor was talking about it. It's been a tough year for a lot of college football handicappers because the guys that usually are terrible are doing well, and the guys that usually are very effective are getting buried. So
that's right.
So wisely, you realize, hey, sometimes you just got to pull back a little bit. So no college football from Mike Jones this week, but you are landing in Detroit for their game against Jacksonville.
Yeah, you kind of see that there's a lot of really bad football teams now in the NFL, teams that the fan bases are getting away from and all this, and there's some very few really good ones. Well, we get the rare matchup where we got the really good one against really one of the real bad ones. If it ended now, Jackson would have the first pick of the draft. Detroit is arguably could be 32 in the draft. So this is as big a mismatch you want. And normally these in the recent years would be 18 to 20s, and I got it at 13 early. I see 14. The quarterback, Lawrence Knight is probably not going to play. Doug Peterson looked like in Europe he was checking out a little bit. I know they hung in there tough last week against Minnesota. They still get 3 interceptions and still can't pull a W. I kind of thought last week Houston put up as good a defensive effort in the first half that I had seen anybody go against Detroit. Might ripen them up a little bit. I just don't see this game being close. I hate to lay now 14. Might buy a half a little bit to keep 14 in your favor, but I just can't see this game being close.
All right, so you like the Lions. You're willing to lay 13 against Jacksonville. And maybe it's only right that the Lions suddenly become the darling of everybody's viewing pleasures because remember all those dreadful Thanksgivings when you had to see Altie Taylor carry the ball for like 3 yards of crack? And they were getting blown out in whatever game, and it was always the first game, and you were just praying that the food was ready so you wouldn't have to watch the second half. So, Detroit definitely on a roll with Dan Campbell.
Yeah, and, real quick on that comment, we're probably pushing that to the lame second game with the Giants playing Dallas this year, so we might save your food for the late game because that's going to be as lame duck a game as you might see.
That's the one you want to miss. You want to go out with the grandkids there and play, and you want to go in the pool? No problem, Hey, you got a towel? I'm going to jump in the pool. All right, you're looking at Green Bay and Chicago. Chicago has been a gigantic stiff of late. And all kinds of controversy. They just let go of their offensive coordinator. It's been a mess.
Yeah, interesting. The game comes off 6, and now I see 5s. So I think you might see the 6. So if you're playing this game and you like my side of Green Bay, you might want to, get it now. Green Bay coming off a bye, going up against a team. I know it's a division game, and I hate laying points in a division game. I think there's really a lot more problems in Chicago than we realize after the Hail Mary, which how I felt about that play in particular. They haven't scored a touchdown against Arizona, which really didn't provide much of a defense throughout the year, and then they end up shutting them out, and so I just look at it for me as much as that. I just think Green Bay with the bye after a big loss in Detroit, where they were outplayed at home pretty severely. I think the coaching matchup favors Green Bay. I'm really kind of all over Green Bay in this particular game.
All right, liking the Packers against what's been a spiraling downward Chicago Bears team. Showed some promise early in the season. You thought maybe Caleb Williams was going to be the pick. He's been blown away by Jaden Daniels. There's some debate even if it's beneficial for him to play the way things are going in Chicago. Willing to lay 5, possibly 5 and a hook with the Green Bay Packers in that game. And you're going to finish out in contrast to Scotty M.
Yeah.
You kind of like the Buffalo Bills to beat the Chiefs in this one.
Okay, so Buffalo's 4 straight games over 30 points, getting some defensive help in these with some of these scores, but still producing points at a high level. The Chiefs, on the other hand, have had 3 straight wins with no covers. So now you get Mahomes where you want him as an underdog, get over 60% as an underdog. So you counteract that. But Buffalo's been pretty good in the regular season against Kansas City. When the big games come out, I'm sure Scotty Emery's remember these, Kansas City's dominant. So you get a team having to travel, maybe a colder weather game than normal, although Kansas City's played a bunch of cold weather, it shouldn't affect them. But they've, I just think Buffalo in this particular spot, I think Amari Cooper's going to play. I know Coleman's not. I kind of really like them. For Josh Allen's got to have this, be a big part of his rivalry with Mahomes. And this is a kind of game where you're watching. Does Kansas City go undefeated? I would say this is not the New England team of 07. If you had to find a spot that we thought they could get tripped up, it could be this particular game. And again, with all the success of Mahomes, why is Buffalo a 2.5-point favorite? And probably makes sense with the way they're playing. And, I know the competition in the 5-game win streak hasn't been, with a lot of winning records, but you still got to go out there. You still got to play. You still got to win games. I thought their defense came up big. I think the tackles for Kansas City have been struggling. I think Buffalo comes off the edges very strong, better pass rush than they'll face. I kind of look at this game as a Buffalo kind of a mental game for Buffalo. They need to get over this hump, and really set the tone for what could happen in January.
They certainly haven't found a way to ignite that offense yet in Kansas City, and they have to be the luckiest 9-0 team that's ever been at that mark in the National Football League. Could have lost any number of games, as many as 4 or 5. I mean, we might be looking at a totally different story, except for what seems to be some very liberally favoring the Chiefs officiating and lucking out in a lot of situations. Good teams, the cliche goes, it is applicable, especially to the Chiefs this year. Good teams find a way to win. But it doesn't hurt to have the rest of the world on your side there and to have a few things go your way that really you don't have a great deal of control over. And so, that may be the most that might be the most fugazi 9-0 since the Hurricanes went to Georgia Tech. All right, your handicapping is available for other people to take advantage of, and you're one of those guys, old school, Mr. Mike Jones.
Yep.
One game at a time.
One game at a time, picksforprofits.com, and also we give out a little bit of multiples for free on the Big Gunner podcast, where we talk Giants football, handicapping, little sports around the league. You can find us Big Gunner podcast on Spotify.
All right, sounds good. Mike, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you're having a party for the fight, I'll be there.
You got it.
All right, sounds good. All right, we're going to finish things off here and round out our quartet of handicappers with one of our favorites out of Seattle, Washington. And it sounds like he's either at a concert or in a sports bar. Troy West joins us here. Troy, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm at the casino, guys. I'm sorry. I tried to get out of here earlier, but I am here.
We would never want to rush anyone out of a casino. Trust me.
Never.
Never.
But I am here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And
yeah, you sound good.
Here to give out some winners.
Good. All right, sounds good. What's the name of this particular casino?
Angels of the Wind. This is
Angels of the Wind.
Angels of the Wind. Yes, actually, we need to. I don't know if you broke it down yet, Defo, but the lock of the year tomorrow is Mike Tyson. That's what the viewers need to get on, is Mike Tyson to win that fight tomorrow. Do we believe that that's a real fight tomorrow, Defo?
That's a great question. I mean, the last time we saw Mike Tyson in the ring was he was a bloated shell of himself in there with another guy who was beyond a bloated shell of himself. They both looked like Butterbean-ish. And that was when he had an exhibition against Roy Jones Jr., and it did appear, I mean, for two guys that were great and dominated their respective divisions in their day. Roy Jones Jr. was a dynamite light heavyweight champion. There weren't really a lot of great light heavyweights around at the time. He eventually got himself knocked out by Antonio Tarver, and then our good friend Glenn Johnson beat him. And that came as a big surprise to most of the chalk players in Las Vegas. I was at both of those fights. But, I mean, they looked like they were at some senior dance somewhere in that one. So I don't know. I mean, this reminds me of when one of the biggest bets I ever made in my life, especially in my early degenerate days, was on the Larry Holmes Ali fight in Las Vegas. I don't know if you remember this one. You might be too young to remember what was taking place there, but they had a picture of Ali who had been kind of overweight and out of shape. There was no definition around his midsection anymore. Wasn't going to be able to take that kind of pounding he did in the Thriller in Manila from Joe Frazier or while he was doing a rope a dope with George Foreman. I mean, it seemed like one shot to the belly, the midsection, what was going to do him in. In all of the 3 or 4 previous fights he had, all of a sudden a picture comes out in the paper. He's absolutely ripped. It turned out he'd been taking some thyroid medication that I guess was an early forerunner to Ozempic. And they put that picture across the country on all the sports sections, on the front page of the sports sections, and everybody dove in on Muhammad Ali, thinking he had a shot to beat Larry Holmes, which he had no chance to win. None. I ran to every bank I could to withdraw money. I borrowed every dime I could off all of my friends. We ran to Las Vegas as fast as we could, bet everything that we had on Larry Holmes, got 6-5 as Larry Holmes went into this fight now as an underdog, it goes off. And then we were just like everybody else in the crowd, including the fight doctor, Freddie Pacheco, screaming, "Stop it, ref! It's a killing!" And we didn't want to see Ali embarrassed like that. And it turned out to be a very fortunate adventure for us. But I see this the same way. I mean, Tyson, he's not the guy that came out of prison and knocked out Peter McNeely. He's more like the guy that got knocked out 20 years ago by Kevin McBride, I would think. So you have to take that into account. But a lot of people are with you, Troy West, and they believe that at plus 175, if you were going to watch the fight, if you just wanted to throw away a 20, just wad it up and throw it out the car window on your way to wherever you're going today, that you may as well take a shot with Mike Tyson in this one. You're saying this with a level of certainty that I respect.
No, I'm having a little fun with it, but I do think a guy like Mike Tyson that is taking the fight on, I feel like there's got to be a little bit level of conviction that he can win it, right? I don't think this guy at his age,
$20 million,
and his
though.
legacy.
I mean, he's making
True.
$20 million for this thing. I will say this
true.
about Jake Paul. A lot of people hate Jake Paul, but he actually has been a huge advocate for women's boxing, and he has escalated the purse money in women's boxing. He took an interest in this Amanda Serrano, who's fighting on the undercard, and it's kind of like the main event, I guess. She's fighting Katie Taylor, who's an excellent female European boxer, and his favorite in this one, beat her before. And Taylor's making like $6 million for this, and Serrano wouldn't even mention she's the house fighter for Jake Paul, but he has done a lot in that regard to try and advance a little bit. So all the boxing purists that can't stand a guy and want to see him get knocked out, he at least had done a little good for the game. All right, we want to make some money. It's licensed to steal after all, Troy West, and you guys have been doing real well, having winning weeks virtually every week on all the shows that we do together. You're going to start out, and this is always great because you have that insight into the West Coast stuff, especially out of the Northwest. You're looking at San Jose State and Boise State.
Yeah, San Jose State, this team is not a bad football team. They can score points. Defensively, they're a little, they're a little handicapped, but they can score points. They're at home against Boise State. Boise State, listen, this is a good Boise State team, but they have not been challenged this year. The one time they were challenged, they lost to Oregon. Close football game, I get it. If they played Oregon now, I think it'd be a different story. I think they'd get blown out. San Jose State's plus 13.5. If I'm going to bet it, I'm going to buy this thing to 14.5, and I'm going to feel really good about it. San Jose State, good football team at home. Give me San Jose State plus the points. They'll keep this game close. I think they'll have a game plan for Gentry. I'm not saying they'll shut him down. I think they'll contain him. I think they keep this game close. This will be a close one. 34-31, Boise State wins, but I'll take the points.
All right, grabbing the points with San Jose State. It's a bushel full of points. They're going to bet it up to 14 in a hook there. Pay a little premium for that over Boise State. You're moving right to the pros after that, Troy West. And a lot of people, I think, are underestimating the way this team is playing. It seems like it's a surprise every week when they win. They won handily last week in a real weak spot for them in terms of opponent. But Arizona is laying one to Houston. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, no, Arizona's a good football team. Listen, Brett Brennan hasn't done the best job this year. There's no doubt about it. They're 3-6, but Arizona can play. Noah Fifita is one of the better quarterbacks in this league. I like Arizona at home. It's a tough place to play. Houston's got to travel up to Tucson. They're still a reputable team, especially at home. Give me Arizona. It's a Friday night game. Arizona -1. College football is Arizona -1
Yeah,
at home against Houston.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong chart here. I got them in the
It's okay.
pros, but
No problem.
Arizona laying one against Houston, another college game. You stayed all straight on with the college picks this week because, and this one you've had good luck with also. You've been pretty strong on handicapping which way these Washington games are going to go. Been a big winner for you, whether they won or lost to the point spread. You've been
Correct.
on the right side of it, and they're laying 3 against what has been, I don't know, is it a disappointing UCLA team or does this come as any surprise anymore that UCLA isn't that good?
Yeah, UCLA's done okay this year. Deshaun Foster's done a pretty good job. They've got some big wins. They've got the momentum. There's no doubt about that. They go out in Nebraska, they win the game. They get Iowa at home, they win the game. This is a must-win game for Washington. Washington needs this game to become bowl eligible. They know it's do or die. If they lose this game, they will not be bowl eligible. They have to play at Oregon, their final game, which is probably not a game they're going to win. Friday night, sold. They're bringing out new uniforms for this game. This place is going to be rocking. I cannot see the Huskies losing this game at home. Give me Washington -3 at home against UCLA. I like this game a lot.
All right, the casino. Are you seeing people sending in on the Paul Tyson fight? What's the action like over there?
As of right now, it's like 50-50. It really is. I mean, you get these groups of Jake Paul fans and you get these group of Mike Tyson fans. Like I said, I invested interest. I just like to see Tyson win that fight. My worry, I didn't realize this, Defo, till today, believe it or not. 8 rounds, 2-minute rounds. I don't necessarily like that. I wish they would do the official, 12 rounds, 5 minutes. Like, let's see what these guys got, right? The over and a half, the over is 5.5 rounds. That's
Yeah,
another interesting stat I saw. 5.5 rounds. Which is interesting. I'm surprised they're calling for somebody to tap out here because I definitely can't see Jake Paul tapping out. So we'll see if Tyson does. But that's an interesting one to me as well. Is why is that laying set at 5.5? You would think this thing would go the full distance. So that's interesting to me.
I would imagine that too. And I think, are you getting plus 140 on the distance?
Yep.
Is that possible? Because usually that would be negative in terms of you would have to lay a price, something like this. Yeah, the 2-minute rounds, they do that in women's boxing. They used to do that, and this is all an offshoot. I would imagine the idea was inspired by those horrible fights you used to get. I actually called a couple of them at different locations. Celebrity boxing, which you would see like Screech in there against Danny Bonaducci. And they had gloves that literally were the size of catcher's mitts, and it didn't seem like anybody could get hurt, and the fights would routinely go the distance. You would think, I don't know, are you at all influenced by these pictures and videos of Mike Tyson working out in the gym, where it looks like the same guy that, as we said, just got out of jail and was about to meet a stiff in a setup fight?
Yeah, like I said, I'd like to think a guy like Mike Tyson. I get the money factor is a big deal. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure he could use the money, but at his point in his career, does he really want to get embarrassed by a YouTube sensation like Jake Paul? I would think for him to take a fight on like this, he's got to be relatively confident that he can keep this thing close. I'm intrigued. I'm going to be watching it without a doubt. I'm very intrigued to see, are we seeing a full-on boxing match? Are we seeing, like you said, tap dancing? Are we seeing shots to the head? Do they have some sort of agreement that they're not going to go down that road where it's like somebody's not going to get pounded in the head and skull crushed? But I would like to think Mike Tyson is one of those guys. I mean, he said it today. He's a natural born killer, Defo. He's a natural born killer. Jake Paul's a manufactured born killer. There's a big difference, Defo. Big difference. So let's see if the natural born killer can take care of the manufactured born killer.
All right. Well, there'll be a lot of interest in it for sure, and no doubt many parties around the country entertaining people with the Tyson exhibition. It's officially about. You can't bet it in New York, so they're not taking action on it everywhere because of the fact of the Fugazi rules that they're operating under. The New York State Athletic Commission rule that they can't take any betting action on the fight. So I guess they had the authority to make that happen and shut out the casinos on that. All right, Troy, how can people subscribe? I know you're giving out stuff. You got the MMA. You had an underdog that you liked in the MMA card at Madison Square Garden. Not in the main event where John Bones Jones will enter the ring with an 8-ball attached to his nose and probably still prevail at minus 700. But you had one guy that you had mentioned that you thought had a good chance at a price.
Yeah, Michael Chandler. He's got Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler's been training heavily now for Conor McGregor for the last year, and Conor McGregor keeps pulling out of these fights. You get Michael Chandler at plus 200. I like that a lot. This is a great fighter. Charles Oliveira, great fighter as well. I'm really looking forward to this fight. But Michael Chandler, like I said, he's been sitting on the sidelines for over a year. This guy's hungry to get in the ring. I like that value at plus 200. Get to the Instagram. It's Troy West. The website is troywins.com. We cover everything: UFC, college basketball, college football, NHL, you name it, we cover it. It's not just me. Got a group of guys that cover it for you. That's troywins.com.
Were you one of those guys that was roasted when Eric Spoelstra, of all people, as if he was like Mike Budenholzer, calls a timeout when he had none left, like Chris Webber-esque? Only this is a coach where they have like 10 assistant coaches behind him. They have guys in the rafters. They have guys outside that are coaches on a team that are buying hot dogs, and not one of them realized, you don't have any timeouts, Spo. And if you were betting the Miami Heat on the money line in that game against Detroit, which I think it was a very low spread, like 1 point, you might have been getting close to even money on that. And you were burnt in an improbable fashion with a rare mental error by Eric Spoelstra, one of the great coaches of all time. We love that guy. All right, Troy, you're not still doing those crazy $7 specials, are you?
We're doing that through the end of the
Listen
year. 7 days, $7, troywins.com. It's the best bargain out there that gives you everything. A lot of handicappers out there will give you 7 days for $7, and you're getting the D program. No, you're getting the A program here for $7. It's the best bargain out there. Come take a look. We would love to have you.
All right, well, go roll some bones there and take down some cash, and we appreciate you taking time out. Any guy that stops this casino activity to come on a show with us, we greatly appreciate it. Troy, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Troy West, ladies and gentlemen. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of License to Steal, where we spent a lot of time talking about the possibilities with this Tyson fight. Toby's not that interested in the Tyson fight, but no doubt, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have Netflix among your many television options, I would imagine.
No, I'll be watching it.
Okay, all right. I'm going to watch it too. I mean, all of a sudden, I have great intrigue in it now that it's the biggest betting event in the history of the sport. Incredible. Going all the way back, I mean, into the days of Jack Johnson. There's never been a boxing match that's going to see more money exchanging hands and going through the windows than this one. All right, anything strike you? I mean, we had some college football, some pro football, some conflict on the Buffalo Bills KC game. Did you look at that at all, Toby? Because I'm thinking KC's due for a loss, aren't you? I don't know about the point spread. It'd probably be a close game, but don't they seem like they've been like Nick Wallenda trying to cross the Grand Canyon on a wire where he forgot, oh, fuck, there's wind up here. And next thing you knew, he was like praying to God. Thank God he was strapped onto that thing. But yeah, don't they seem like they're primed for a fall? It looked that way with the Hurricanes last week, where they've been escaping. I don't know. How do you feel about that game?
I agreed with you there on Miami, and I agree that KC's due for a loss. But at the end of the day, this is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm always going to take the Chiefs, regardless of who they're playing. If Mahomes is in the game, I'm taking the Chiefs. I bet against them too many times where it's not gone in my favor, and I'm going to learn from my mistake. Even if they lose this game, I'll happily take the Chiefs, and I'll take the spread too.
All right, so you're in agreement with Scotty M, who says, yeah, give me the points, the Chiefs and Mahomes. And I would look pretty stupid with a Mark Davis haircut, I believe. It's good to have any hair, but I'm not going to style it like that, like you were Buster Brown or something. All right, Toby, we love you, man. Thanks. Always a pleasure. We'll catch everybody again here on the Bleacher Brothers Network with another edition of Conversations coming up this week. Always a lot of fun. If you didn't catch the episode with Craig Minervini, local announcer, extraordinary talent, and got his start in professional wrestling, believe it or not. He was working with Mean Gene and doing WWF stuff. And the stories, we spent about the first half hour of the show talking about wrestling, and I had to make myself get off of it. It was so fascinating. So if you want to dig up last week's episode of Conversations, it aired on Tuesday for the first time. Check it out on the Bleacher Brothers Network. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Jeff DeForest, and that's this week's edition of License to Steal.